So let's get into it without delay. The top of the agenda is Jordan De Goey's date with the tribunal. For a relatively straightforward case, this has, well, it's been met with all sorts of emotive debate.
The simple line is if you choose to bump and you hit someone in the head, you're going to be in trouble. And that incident probably personifies that.
And he was bumped after he got rid of it. A little high from De Goey. Trouble.
That's trouble for Jordan De Goey.
He's in a bit of difficulty.
Watching it back now, I think he deserves a good month or two on the sidelines.
It's football 2023's version of a weak act.
The action was no good. We can sit here and that's clear.
That's a bad action. It's an action that's caused harm, and we know how much we're protecting the head at the moment.
I hope the young lad's okay. That's where our concern goes to. I hope he's okay, and Geordie's a fair player, and yeah, the rules will be the rules.
That's a big one right there.
In real time, Jason's one word was trouble, and trouble it was. The question tonight was, would it be 3 or would it be 4? David Zeta sat through the hearing for us. David, welcome back to 360.
Good to be with you, Jared.
Which number was it?
It was the number 3. So Jordan De Goey suspended for 3 matches. You said it was pretty straightforward. This took an hour and 13 minutes from start to completion. So that's Usain Bolt areas really for the AFL tribunal as far as they're concerned. So Collingwood set the tone very early on. It pleaded guilty to all aspects of the charge, and Jordan De Goey gave evidence. The Pies asked for a 3-match ban. Their legal representative, Stephen Russell, putting that forward. The AFL, via Andrew Woods, asked for a 4-match ban. So De Goey gave evidence effectively just to express his remorse, and he said, I don't go out there to play my footy in a dirty way, and to see someone get injured like that was obviously disappointing. He also said that after the match he spoke to Shannon Hurn, or the Pies said that he spoke to Shannon Hurn, asked to speak to Elijah Hewitt. Hewitt wasn't on the bench at that time, so he then got Hewitt's number, sent him an apologetic text and said that Hewitt was very appreciative of that gesture. So Stephen Russell for Collingwood said that De Goey was severely shaken by the incident during the game. And he also said, interestingly, the publicity of this case and the media scrutiny around Jordan De Goey should be considered part of the punishment, in effect. So the publicity and comments that have been made, he said, in a situation where you've got a young man who's already remorseful about what's occurred, it adds to the punishment to a large extent. The tribunal deliberated for about half an hour, which again, just re-emphasising, is not that long in tribunal minutes. They came back with its verdict and said, in all the circumstances, we do not consider this matter requires a higher sanction than the 3 weeks base sanction that applies for this grading. They gave 6 reasons. Those reasons factored in De Goey's remorse, the fact that the breach of the duty of care in their eyes was clear but not egregious. He now misses matches against Melbourne, Adelaide and Gold Coast, but crucially is back for the Western Bulldogs. So a 3-match ban for Jordan De Goey, but in a sense, Collingwood could probably claim a win here, given they got probably the best possible outcome they could have heading into tonight.
So 2 comparisons were used, David, during the hearing, and these are the 2 that are being publicly debated at the moment, Shane McAdam and Nathan Broad. In what context were they raised? So
the AFL said that Shane McAdam being 3 matches was the correct ban for that incident, and the fact that Jacob Ware wasn't concussed in this incident here, which is still nasty to watch, and the fact that Elijah Hewitt was concussed means that this should be 4 rather than the 3 matches that McAdam received. And the AFL brought up the Nathan Broad incident purely due to impact, and we can see Broad here, and that's, again, nasty. So players must do all they reasonably can not to cause avoidable injuries to their fellow players. That was a reason that was given in the Nathan Broad verdict of 4 matches, and that is one that was referenced by the AFL. Collingwood said this isn't anything like McAdam on Ware, and McAdam went straight through Ware, in their words, and launched himself towards the other player from some distance, and it was far more split second for De Goey. And they also pointed out Broad had much more time to decide whether he would do a second action in his tackle. De Goey didn't have that opportunity. So Collingwood effectively said McAdam's incident was actually worse. We're coming in and saying we're guilty, whereas the Crows appealed this twice at the tribunal and then the appeal board. So we should at least be getting 3 matches, let alone avoiding a 4-match ban that the AFL imposed, and that's eventually what the AFL tribunal agreed with in giving the 3-match ban to Jordan De Goey.
David, thank you. What do you think, Jace?
You're a man of great reason, so I really want to ask you a question. Why does pleading guilty or being sorry have any impact on it?
Yeah, well, I suppose
because we're making their job easier, so they don't actually have to work their way through. I mean, why should it matter?
I think The why is an interesting question. It does, and it does in every legal system around the world, whether you plead guilty or whether you contest every element of the charge. So it is a convention, and it's really clear, studying a few of the cases in the lead up to this, and I felt Tom Stewart was the best reference point, where remorse was absolute key.
Yep.
Don't challenge any aspect of a charge that you are guilty on. Like, you can play in the margins and pretend that this is high impact rather than severe, but you'll lose. So you have to go through the steps of being, as a human being, sorry, and in real time seek some sort of restitution on that front, which he did at the ground at the time. So after it, we saw nothing visible, but it was taking place. And then you have to throw yourself at the mercy of the tribunal.
Yeah, and look, I'm sure Jordan's genuinely sorry. I know he wouldn't have wanted to hurt a player. It just amazes me that because I plead guilty and I'm making your job easier, I get a lesser sentence. That is, I think 3 weeks is the right number. It's the perfect number for it. And I'm sure at times, I think the AFL often asks for an extra week, because then it feels like the club and the players had a win when they get the week less, which is, as I said, the right number.
I think it holds to the bigger principle for the AFL to always be as harsh as they can be, and then the independent tribunal can make its measurements along the way. So the key phrase was that the breach of the duty of care was clear but not egregious. And I do think that's where it differentiates from Broad. Broad's was egregious in that the way that action happened, and it's different, as rough conduct is different to the dangerous tackle, so they don't line up like for like. And I think the McAdam one is clearly more aggressive and confrontational and proactive by the player in attacking the bump, whereas De Goey's action is totally illegal and to be stamped out of the game, and almost has been, but much more split second.
It's interesting, and that's exactly why they said the breach of duty of care was clear but not egregious, because of the pace of the incident. It was split second late, not just late. And that made a difference. But I don't understand why players bother bumping anymore. There's no... Unless you're running side by side and you're trying to put him off balance, off the line of the ball that you're going for. If you're coming from different directions, there is 0 point, 0 to be gained from actually bumping.
So not even just a misjudgment, but just don't even consider that as one of your alternatives.
No point. No point.
What about the argument that the commentary has added to the punishment?
Oh. Well, again, for me, that's very much like pleading guilty affecting the sentence. It shouldn't. You are looking at something in the cold light of day. You're looking at the facts. You're analysing every little bit of the action as it happened compared to what the rules say, and you come up with a decision, which I don't think should be affected by commentary, by trial, by media, by pleading guilty early. None of that. I just think you follow the rules and you apply them.
The game wouldn't matter much if we didn't discuss its flashpoints, would it? The Liam Duggan case is not going to the tribunal tonight.
I wanted this one to go to the tribunal.
So he's ill. He's been in hospital. He was going to miss anyway. So the Eagles folded their cards rather than putting up the 10 grand. This would have been interesting as to whether under the Rory Laird there was a split second of care rather than the drive into the ground. It doesn't look good in the aftermath with Adams, but it's more the gentle tip than the slam into the ground, and that would have been right in the margins, I think.
Yeah, because to me, he's dragging him down by the body, and you actually see his hip and his left thigh hit the ground first, and then momentum tilts him over, and the fact that he goes down holding his head doesn't help him. But I would have thought, again, there's no point tackling a player to ground these days. If you have any possibility of actually holding him up, you might as well just hold him up. But as far as taking someone to the ground is concerned, that to me is nearly the right way to do it, and yet you still get in trouble. So I think we're making some very, very clear guidelines here for what players should or shouldn't be considering doing in future.
We'll never quite know with that one.